the theme. You know, Team Kentucky is itself a moniker and a lexicon that we've become very familiar with this administration. But Forward Together, what does that symbolize?
That symbolizes many things, but in particular, it's a plea for unity, and that is something that's so important in politics and in the world in general. And in our divisive age, it is good to see one of the chief executives of one of the states of the Union to actually say, you know, let's go forward together. Let's not look backward divided, but go forward together.
But aren't these occasions supposed to be an exercise of unity?
In sometimes, in past history, they have not been, but yes, it should be. We'll put it that way.
Yes, and so we'll see. There's lots of interesting things planned. We're not going to be a spoiler by saying that later on this afternoon, Tyler Childress will be on the stage.
Yes.
Childers, excuse me, Childers. Or Childers will be on the stage.
Yes, looking forward to seeing that. Very exciting, an Eastern Kentucky native from Lawrence County, and so he is great, so popular, and so it's really exciting to have him here.
Yeah, and that explains some of the additional seating that's perhaps been made accommodating. So there have been significant changes, and you're watching right now on the screen as we are. They're about to start the parade. They're running pretty much on time. You know, these things are, there's a lot to wrangle, a lot of people to wrangle, a lot of activities to wrangle, and certainly we will bring you all of that as it gets closer to us, and you'll have the best view of the house in your warm, hopefully comfortable home. It's not as bad as it was. Ron can attest to this 4 years ago, Kelsey, when it was 25 degrees, but up here, it was 15.
That's right. Chip Polston called me last week, and he said, get the thermal underwear out. Like, get ready, because it is so cold. And so I've been pleasantly surprised by the weather today.
Right. And if you heard that jolt, and we all kind of felt a jolt, the cannon, this is a sign that things are about to get started.
Yes, and very traditional also.
Right. So if we wouldn't otherwise have a cue to start, right?
It's true.
Yes. And so you're seeing this lovely aerial footage. You know, we've had the drone for a while, but you're looking now at the Capitol. The dome is under construction, as well as the whole Capitol is enduring a makeover that will take several years to complete. But even with all that scaffolding on that dome, look at that majestic greenery, the lushness, even this time of year. It's still a beautiful Capitol, and if you've never been here, it is a wonderful trip. I've been to this Capitol 27 years. I know Ron has been here longer, and every time I drive up Capitol Avenue, Ron, I get chills to know that I've been privileged to work in this space and to be in this space and to know where the nooks and crannies are and the cupola and the fourth floor, all of that. It's just tremendous.
And one of the most beautiful Capitol buildings in the United States.
I don't have a whole lot of comparison, but I won't disagree with you.
Take my word.
Well, it certainly is beautiful, and later on today, time permitting, we will show you a documentary that celebrates what will be the 110th, or was the 110th anniversary of this we call the new Capitol. And Ron, I want you to explain, there's an old Capitol and there's the new Capitol, and we are at the new Capitol.
We're at the new Capitol, which was actually occupied after 1910. That doesn't sound too new, but that is new compared to the old Capitol, which was used from the late 1820s till 1910. And the old Capitol, of course, is in downtown Frankfort and is one of the best examples of Greek Revival architecture in the nation. And still, and the staircase is magnificent if you've not seen that.
Well, and occasionally when, Kelsey, when the lawmakers go into session, usually around President's Day, they will hold chambers in the old chambers, and it doesn't have all the technical accoutrements, right? It goes back to the old days. They bring out a scroll and they read off the roll call, but it's quite an experience.
It absolutely, such tradition, and this is in fact the fifth Capitol building, right?
That's right.
A couple burned before the old Capitol, and then
we had difficulty with fire in the old days.
I guess so. But it is beautiful. It is absolutely stunning to be here, and anywhere you go inside, it just you can feel the history that's here.
Compared to what Isaac Shelby, the building that he actually took his first oath of office, was a 2-story log building in Lexington. So we've come quite a way since then.
A long way. And so it's interesting about how Frankfort even came to be the capital city.
Oh, yes.
Right?
Well, yes, because people immediately thought the larger towns should be it, and Frankfort was a little river town, but still very nice. But due to a man by the name of Andrew Holmes, he really worked so hard to get the Capitol here. He gave nails, glass, brass fixtures for the Capitol building, and due to that, people decided, well, we'll put it in Frankfort.
Yeah.
And so therefore they built it there, and we've been here ever since.
And we are very close to the governor's mansion, which makes Kentucky unique in that way too,
yes,
right?
Very much so. And the governor's mansion is a beautiful replica of the Petit Trianon in France, and so it is one of the most elegant of the governor's mansions in the country also.
Yeah, a gorgeous place, especially this time of year. I haven't seen it this time of year in a couple of years, but it's beautiful.
It is, and unique to Kentucky as well that all three branches of government are here.
That's right. Yeah.
Is that right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So very interesting.
Right.
We can concentrate power very easily here.
Well, you know, you like to be close to Frankfort for all
do.
those reasons, right? Well, and to give you that perspective, you know, on the first floor is the governor's office, and on the second floor, now we're on the second floor, the state reception room, which is a room where a lot of the bill signings happen here. It is a gorgeously ornate room. You're not allowed to sit on the furniture, so we would have to sit out here anyway, even if there was no balcony. There's a beautiful law library across the hall that has stacked books in the shape of a Christmas tree. It's quite striking. And then on the third floor, that's where the lawmaking happens. On one end of the Capitol is the House, and the other end is the Senate. And the Senate right now, you'll see tonight, so you want to hang in there on our coverage, is just beautifully adorned with all of these lovely snow-colored botanicals. When you walk in, it's so fragrant, and it is just a captivating sight, and cascading greenery down the walls, and you will see that tonight during the Grand March. So I'm giving you a teaser now, but you'll want to tune in at 6 p.m. Eastern Time, particularly to see all of that and to see all of the governor and lieutenant governor and the constitutional officers officially taking their welcome. Is that what you call that?
That's it. Would be the official. Yes, it's the public one.
The
that
public
has
one,
to
right.
be the public one. Yes.
Officially official.
Officially
I feel like we
official.
do this a lot.
We do
There's
this,
a
that's
lot
right.
of
That's
official
right.
things.
Well, and you would think with a two-term governor, you know, doing all of it again, like why?
But it is, right?
Because
it's exactly the same.
It's so important, though, to the entire makeup of the government to have an inauguration for each term that the governors serve, and it's something also for the people of the Commonwealth to see that they want that pomp and circumstance. They want their little bit of grandeur, and they get it. They really do get it.
And we've spoken before about how other states, you know, they just kind of do it and move on.
Yes.
But we make it a whole occasion and a reason for people, maybe even out of state, to come in and people to come back home. And you're seeing right now them lining up for the parade, and that will get started here shortly. These drone shots are extraordinary and give us such access and views that we haven't always had. So we thank our operators for providing this coverage for us so we can really get a bird's eye view of what's about to take place. An extraordinary day ahead of us, Kelsey.
Yes, absolutely. And the grand marshals, too, of the parade, as you mentioned, are the healthcare workers that have been singled out to be here today, and as well as educators.
Yes.
And so really important to note that those are the grand marshals here today.
Right. And not to get political about this, but the day before, we just got an important ruling from the Franklin Circuit Court Judge Philip Shepard about school choice, right?
Yes.
Striking down an important bill, House Bill 9, that we know there'll be some traction and some conversation about come January 2nd when the lawmakers convene. So it'd be interesting to see if the governor rearranges his speech a little bit to acknowledge some recent developments. Yes. What do you know about how soon they start crafting their speeches after their victory, and are they malleable? Do they change?
They generally have one that is pretty much laid out ahead of time, but yes, they can edit it very quickly.
Right.
And sometimes they do, as you said, for very important events via the legislature or the courts, they will try to put things in at the last minute.
The one difference here, too, and I don't know if we can get a shot of it right now, Kelsey, there are big screens on either side of us that are the teleprompter for the governor.
Oh, wow.
That's what those are used for.
Wow.
So yesterday, while we were here setting up, we could actually see some of that text and hear them. And so you're looking at that right now. The 62nd inauguration, Team Kentucky forward together. I believe that's the shot. That might be supplemental panel viewing, but it might be for, I can't really tell.
It looks like it is that smaller screen facing the stage.
Yes. Yeah. So it's interesting how we have elevated the times,
absolutely,
right? To really, technology can take you so far, so fast, and make it so accessible. And it's great. You know, one of the things that the governor did talk about last night is that the people that he's lost that have been very dear to him. He mentioned in Virginia, who we lost, last year, and of course Tommy Elliott, who was killed in the mass shooting at Old National Bank in Louisville in April. And of course we've had Ron, and just the last couple of months, September, Governor Brereton Jones passed, and then just this beginning of this week, Governor Julian Carroll passed. So a lot of monumental, large figures that our Commonwealth has lifted up are no longer with us.
Yes, and that is, at one time there were quite a few former Kentucky governors still alive. It's getting much smaller now, the number is, and a lot of great people have passed along, and that has affected this Commonwealth more than we'll ever know for many years to come.
That is so true. You never really know your legacy until, what, 20 or 30 years down the road.
Right.
At least.
Yes,
at least.
That's right. Yeah. And I saw, too, one of the honorary chairs is Tommy Elliott, who served as that role in Beshear's first inauguration and is being honored in memoriam as an honorary chair. So I know that they were very close, and so it is kind of a somber day because, as we said, so much has happened. So much tragedy has happened in the last 4 years. So I think this is a time when we can look back and see how far we've come, and then, of course, looking to the future.
Right. Yeah. And it is a day for hope and optimism, right? That what we know about the Kentucky spirit, and it was called that, unbridled spirit.
That's right.
Our logo and slogan was that, and so it still is. And so we're resilient, and even when there's enormous tragedy, we still rise above and help each other. And the governor has pointed that out time and time again about how neighbors have helped neighbors in extreme hard times.
That is the true Kentucky spirit.
That is the true Kentucky spirit. And so you're going to see that and feel that all throughout the parade, and even throughout the day. I think you'll see a lot of spirit. Here's some planes overhead. It is a beautiful day here at the state capitol. It's about, well, it'll be hopefully 50 degrees, but it feels really good right now, and just the warmth of, we're on the cusp of a new year and a new beginning, and this is a good start to it.
It is.
It is indeed.
Nothing like a good parade.
Nothing like a good parade. That's right. I will just mention Kelsey's birthday was on the 9th. And I said to her, Ron, I said, well, on Tuesday we're throwing you a parade.
Look at that.
You got a lot of honor there.
Yeah.
All these people
look at all
me.
these people from all over the state wishing you a happy birthday. So it is a fantastic time of year, and especially around the holidays. So you're going to see a lot of holiday-inspired music, hear a lot of holiday-inspired music, and the decor you're going to see certainly replicates that.
That's right. You mentioned some of the decor there inside the Capitol. It is incredible.
Yes.
The decoration in every room, every corner I turned when I came in, it's really breathtaking.
It really
is. Besides the ornateness of the Capitol itself, but when it is dressed up for this time of year, it is truly special.
It is, and it's aromatic. I mean, you walk in and the fragrance is just, woo, it's wonderful. And a big shout out to Sam Devine and his team for making just transforming part of the Capitol here. So
here they come.
Here they come. I would say, just as a shout out to our fantastic crew, who is so many of them are on every corner here to give you this, really, you're journeying along with us as it's happening, unfolding in real time, and it's awesome to be able to present it to you. You always start these things with your military officers and your first responders, right? It's so appropriate to do that. The color guard and That's how you start every event
Yes.
in Kentucky.
Yes.
I
That's
don't know of any event, Kelsey, have you ever gone to any event where you haven't had the posting of the colors and the singing of the state song?
It is tradition.
It is tradition.
It is.
We like our tradition
We
around
love
here.
our traditions, and it's interesting to see. I call them the roundabouts, but they're not roundabouts. But the round circles there on Capitol Avenue. They're not quite adorned this time of year, but we encourage folks to come back to the Capitol because the grounds are also breathtaking. The clock, when I went by the clock yesterday, it is so holiday inspired, and so it's just it really helps get you in the holiday spirits for certain. And we'll take a little listen to the band. We're trying to read the signs along with you folks to see.
I think so.
Yeah. The Grand Marshals for the inaugural parade. Thank you for that emphasis, the Kentucky healthcare workers and educators. And you're probably hearing a familiar voice in the background. The parade announcer is none other than Bill Bryant, who is the main anchor at WKYT Channel 27 in Lexington, and of course, the host of KET's Comment on Kentucky on Friday evening. So we're so glad to have Bill still a part of our team in some way, maybe a little more remote, but we're so glad that he is participating in today's parade and as the announcer. So yeah, they're all this is interesting. The grandstands, they're all just filing in, and they will have a really good view, Kelsey, of the parade unfolding.
That's right. They have about 50 to 60 healthcare workers here
something?
today. I think it's so great that they are honored here. One of the doctors here is U of L's Dr. Jason Smith, who really made some headlines, speaking very candidly about gun violence after that April 10th shooting in Louisville. And so, and he was, of course, a main face during COVID as well, and helped lead the COVID response, as well as Dr. Stephen Stack, who the Commissioner for Public Health, also got to know him very well during those COVID years.
Right. And last night, Dr. Stephen Stack was the presider or the MC of the private swearing in, and he made a joke about the times when they did those press conferences about the Steve and Andy show, right? And we're glad to say that we're glad to be beyond those days, certainly. But Stephen Stack and, of course, Dr. Smith, as you said, has just risen to prominence in how he really handled and communicated about gun violence. And there you are looking at the governor of Kentucky and his family, First Lady Brittany, and their children, Will and Lila. I can't believe how much they've grown.
Well, I know. You think about 4 years, but his kids are about the same age as mine. And so you think back to 4 years ago, you know, going from 9 or 10 to 13, 14.
Right.
That's
a big jump.
A big jump.
Yes.
And I think that's always interesting to think about how they do have young kids in the governor's mansion.
Isn't that fun?
Is fun.
Yes.
Yeah, it is.
And it's fun to see the pictures with, is it Winnie the dog?
That's right.
And but last night when the kids were standing next to Brittany, I mean, it was a run for the money there on the height.
That's
right. I mean, so it was just amazing how much they've matured. Lovely children, and good to see them. And of course, they're on a high today, right?
Of course,
the emotions
that's
that
be
you
fun
feel,
for them.
right? You know, just to be able to have a second term.
Oh, yes.
He's only the third governor in Kentucky history to have a second term. Mm-hmm. And there's lots of talk. He even said it last night in his speech. The eyes of the country are on Kentucky. And the eyes of the country are also on Governor Andy Beshear.
Yes, indeed.
And so many people are already speculating about what comes after these 4 years. But we'll take one step at a time. Lieutenant Governor Jacqueline Coleman and her family there. So I have to ask you, Ron, about the horse-drawn carriages.
Yes.
That's tradition, right?
That is. It's interesting how governors have always entered Frankfort for the inauguration. The first one was on horseback, of course, and then they came in the open carriages. And then Governor James Clark, actually came in the first railroad in 1836, and it was called a steam carriage. And it got here very quickly at the great rate of about 5 miles an hour.
Wow, that's interesting.
Well, you'd rather go for the horsepower.
Exactly.
And there is former governor Steve Beshear and First Lady Jane.
Another history-making.
That's right.
Family there with the only father and son to ever be elected governor.
That's right. And to 2 terms.
That's right. 2 terms each.
Yes. Just fun to see Lieutenant Governor right here. So there she is.
With her young kids as well.
Her young kids as well. She made a comment last night during the private swearing in, or I guess that would have been earlier today, excuse me, that she was, 9 months pregnant 4 years ago.
Right.
And now her little girl is 4 years old, and she thinks this is a princess party. So we're not going to spoil it.
That's right. Sounds
for
good
her
to
at
me.
all. Fun to see the family.
It is. And when you think about, too, we were talking about the kids growing up, you think about 4 years from now, Will's 18 years old.
Yeah, headed to college, right?
That's incredible.
That's
Isn't
incredible.
that crazy to think about?
Yeah, time flies.
It does.
The days are long, but the years are short.
That's absolutely the truth.
And it's wonderful to watch them mature. And I have to imagine, they're in the spotlight too some.
Yes.
It seems like, though, the Beshears really and the Colemans try to shield their children.
It's got to be a tough balance, though.
Yeah.
With kids growing up in that spotlight, something they didn't choose.
Right.
It's next to impossible sometimes to shield them, too.
Sure.
And in these days and times,
That's
with
right.
social media
Yes.
being as social media is, it's even tougher. And but they look like they've got good home training.
That's right.
As we would say
That's
from
right.
my neck of the woods, and they're just so happy right now. It's good to see them enjoying the parade, and they'll have lots of well-wishers that will go by them as we proceed with the parade. So I think you're able to hear Bill Bryant fairly audibly, and I'll have the... Okay. So you will be able to hear him a little bit better as the parade accelerates here. And so right now, Kelsey?
I think we're going to have the Kentucky State Police here right now, and then coming up, I can't tell if they're here yet or not, but LMPD Officer Nick Wilt is going to be coming up here in just a moment, a part of this parade. He was the officer who was shot in the head during that deadly shooting we talked about at Old National Bank in Louisville in April. Miraculous recovery.
Oh my goodness.
He has been discharged, is now at home.
Yes.
And of course now
participating in a
parade. It is incredible, and that has been such an inspiring story to see his recovery after multiple surgeries, infections. He had a lot of setbacks, and then was able to rehab at Fraser Rehab, and just went home this past July, and here he is participating in this parade.
Yeah, talk about a hero, right?
Absolutely.
And we remember April 10th, 2023. That will be a day that, whether you're a Louisvillian or not, you will remember if you're a Kentuckian. And to see him in a few minutes will bring a smile and I'm sure lots of cheers when he approaches. Ron, when you look at today's parade, was there any other kind of particularly standout or spectacular parade or event at a parade that made it memorable?
Oh, yes, there were quite a few through the years. One of the events that still goes down in the annals of Kentucky history is when Governor McCrary was inaugurated his first time in the 1870s. And they had a 40-foot high paper tissue balloon that was sent up over Frankfort. It rose very high. The crowd was delighted until it suddenly burst into flames and fell down.
We do have a problem with fire
We do
here,
yeah.
don't we?
We're into pyrotechnics or something. I don't know what's happening there. I mean, goodness.
Wow.
And there were other parades when some of the parades were just so large. Louis Nunn's parade was one of the largest in history. It went 11 blocks and had over 250 bands in it.
Oh, my gosh.
Wow.
It took a while. It really did.
Well, there's more bands than counties. That's double the amount.
Yeah.
I don't know where they all came from.
Where did
to
they
be
all come
honest.
from? Wow.
But that was one of the largest parades in time. And, of course, the elephant was there that time, too. That was very good. And when Governor Ruby Laffoon was inaugurated in the 30s, there was a big statue of a rooster in front of him when he was taking the oath of office because that was the sign of the Democratic Party at that, and still is on Kentucky ballots.
Right.
But that rooster looked so strange there with Ruby Laffoon standing above it. So that caused some comments also.
Right. Well, they don't have the props or the fire. I think you learn from history, don't you, Kelsey?
That's right. My dad told me last night that my grandparents were in a parade, in the inauguration parade
cool.
when Wendell Ford
that's
was
cool.
elected governor, and they were in a band called the PU Band, which it's for pantomime because it was a lip syncing band.
Wow.
But the people in Owensboro have heard of it.
Yes.
So,
well, and it started a trend, right?
That's right.
That's what happened.
So that's where some of the bands may have come from.
Yeah.
They weren't exactly marching bands.
They weren't. We should have. That's a good point. A clarification, right?
And one thing that was really common in many inaugurations early on, we had the firing of a cannon, but at a signal, everyone in the crowd had a gun and started shooting in the air, and that happened many times, and there was hail of bullets coming down on
my word. Goodness.
It was like hundreds of shots being fired. You can only imagine what it sounded like.
Oh my goodness.
But the crowd again was delighted with it. That was the term.
Wow.
Well, okay.
Well, we've come a long way, haven't we?
And I'm thankful that that's not a part of the program now.
That's
I
right.
have to say. So fun stuff. It's good to kind of look back at history and to have a basis of comparison,
Yes,
right? I mean, it's fun to kind of find the comic nature of it,
yes.
but it's often grounded in some tradition that is uniquely Kentucky.
Oh yes.
Right.
So
or signature about us in some way.
Yes. And one of the great traditions is when the governor will go back to the governor's mansion, and on the dining room table there will be a platter of country ham, Kentucky beaten biscuits, and a white cake. And that has been going on for over a century.
Wow.
And
that
is a
incredible.
tradition.
Something.
Now, if you've ever had a beaten biscuit, I don't know if you have,
you
have to eat them very quickly.
That's
because within 10 minutes you could break that window out with one of them.
Well, I've had some that's been as hard as that I've tried to make, and I will tell you, they probably could break glass.
But they are good when they're fresh.
They are good when they're fresh, and a good country ham. If you haven't had a beaten biscuit, it is good to have. And there we're seeing the senior advisor to Governor Andy Beshear, Rocky Atkins, who is a former House Majority Floor Leader at one time, his wife Leah with him. I think that's Secretary Eric Friedlander behind him. So these are folks mingling probably too with some of the cabinet secretaries and heads of departments, as well as maybe some of the inaugural committee. We know that Mr. Rocky Atkins, I'm going to refrain from calling him representative because I called him that for so many years still. He is going to be presiding over the 2 o'clock public swearing in. And so we appreciate having this view of them, and hopefully maybe we'll hear from them a little later. You're seeing that slogan right there, dead center, forward together. It is branded everywhere it possibly can be to remind Kentucky voters and viewers what this administration wants to accomplish. Mayfield High School Cardinal Band, and it's good to see Mayfield. Kelsey, you mentioned earlier about many of the bands who were in the parade today represent storm-ravaged areas, and it's just showing the resiliency and the spirit that's still alive.
That's right. I noticed that theme throughout when, I think a lot of them are highlighted from those areas. Of course, in Mayfield, that December tornado tore through there in 2021. Hit several counties, and a lot of people impacted there across 11 counties. So, and many of them represented here today. And it is wonderful to see that resilience, that unbridled spirit
That's
that
right.
you talked about, and all of these high schools represented here and enjoying a little pomp and circumstance.
That's right. So for many, this is kind of like our Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade.
That's right.
It just happens once every 4
Where's
years.
the Broadway
right?
show?
Where's that? Right. Oh, yeah, that would be great. And some of the big, large,
Right.
like balloons. Maybe we'll work on that for 2027.
You have to watch those balloons.
Yeah, right.
That's
Well,
right.
they might
Light
catch
'em on
fire.
right?
But you're right, Kelsey, that showing the spirit and the resiliency of places like Western Kentucky, Mayfield. We just celebrated the 2-year anniversary.
That's
And
right.
I know that my home state of Tennessee, Middle Tennessee, suffered some damage just over the same
yes.
weekend, right? And so it's good to be celebrating with people who are just going to bounce back and do what's good for community. A lot to organize, Ron, to get all of these folks together. One, to get them parking where they need to park, and then to get them lined up. And I mean, Kelsey, that's a lot. Dawson Springs tornado recovery. This is
Hometown of the Beshears.
Hometown of the Beshears, of Steve Beshear. Grew up in Dawson Springs, and of course we know they were also affected by those December 2021 tornadoes, and just an amazing spirit. To watch them in this parade and to see this view is spectacular.
It is a great view.
It's a great view. Kudos to all of our great crew who are working today. So the theme, is really, as you mentioned, Kelsey, it's about resilience. Now, that's not in the title.
That's right.
But we think about who's here today, who is leading off this parade.
Right.
Certainly sends a message. It's like gratitude. Thank you for serving our community, for serving the Commonwealth.
And again, looking back to where we were in 2019 to think about how, who could have ever imagined what would have happened in those 4 years. And to see where we are now, hopefully on the other side, and looking to a brighter future.
The only thing that ever could get close to that was the cholera epidemic of the 1830s and the Spanish flu right after World War I, and Kentucky was hit very hard by both the cholera and the Spanish flu at that time.
Wow.
But we bounced back.
Yeah,
That's right.
we bounced back,
That's right.
and certainly still doing that,
Yes,
learning
we
to
are.
live with something that may not ever really completely go away.
That's true.
But we've certainly trying to mitigate our risk and, continuing to live life with that unbridled spirit that is Kentucky. Love this view here. So those brown circles that you're seeing, that's actually landscaping there. And in the spring, it is just gorgeous. When they plant the tulips, or when they've already planted the tulips, I imagine, but, but when they come up in the spring, it is just a sight to behold.
I was learning a little bit about the landscaping here, and that said that they did not plan for parking lots back then because they thought cars were a fad.
They were a passing fancy.
That's right. And I thought that, wow, I mean, talk about change, to see how far just the grounds have come since then, as we talk about where all these people are going to park.
And it's interesting to note the beautiful floral clock caused one of the biggest controversies politically in Kentucky history. Most of the people didn't want it.
Who would not
When I
want
say
that
people, I'm
beautiful?
talking about legislators.
Okay.
Well,
They are
move right
people.
along. They are people too. They have opinions, as we know. The floral clock is beautiful,
It is.
and I love how seasonally, it will change, and it's just a sight to see. And there's some nice seating around there, so if you're ever walking the grounds, it's a great place to walk, and you can just sit there and read a book or
And
just.
that is one of the things that most people who come to Kentucky to visit, if they come to Frankfort and they see the Capitol, they always will remember the floral clock.
Because how many other states have a floral clock?
Exactly.
So that just goes to show you, just do your own thing, right?
So now we're starting to see some of the unions represented here. Governor Beshear just attended the state AFL-CIO convention last week in Lexington, where he described himself as a proud pro-union governor of the Commonwealth, thanking them for their support. Called it our win. And we'll see a lot of these unions represented here today.
Right, yes. You're seeing United Auto Workers, and you're also going to see some of our, maybe we call them emerging industries, but you're going to be seeing representatives of the Blue Oval SK battery plant and Ford and Toyota and the AESC vehicle, which is being made down there in Bowling Green, or the parts for. And so interesting, because that is also a part of the theme and gratitude, or paying homage to educators, healthcare workers, and the economic development wins.
Yes.
So in the midst of 4 very trying years with natural disasters and 100-year pandemics, there has been some pretty significant growth in this state, and becoming, there you see it, Blue Oval SK. If you have not been on I-65,
Wow,
which most people, it is
incredible.
enormous. It's incredible. And this, the governor has said, this is the largest manufacturing plant in the world, or amongst the largest ones in the world. And it is a sight to see. It does kind of slow down traffic on I-65. I take that frequently, and I can't help but crane my neck.
It's
trying
the truth. It looks like a small city.
It
over
is a
there.
small city, and 5,000 people. Essentially, you could take some counties and put it right there.
Absolutely,
and that's what it would amount to. And so it's going to be a major economic boon when those plants are operational. We did get word that one of the plants, Kentucky Plant Number 2, may be delayed in the opening, but the construction is happening, and its project's still going to proceed forward. So these are major developments, and to have them a part of the parade, Ron, I have to ask, is that unprecedented to really visually say thank you to these companies that are coming here?
That is rather new, yes, because, and it's appropriate, because it is helping the economy, and it's giving jobs where jobs are needed, and it's part of the progressive movement, in Kentucky going into the 21st century.
That's right, yes. I mean, it's here, all of this manufacturing and advanced manufacturing and all kinds of things. We're yet to see what could come.
That's right.
With artificial intelligence and all of that. It's quite remarkable. So you were just seeing those companies there, and then the Kentucky Transportation Cabinet and leadership would follow. The Department of Parks, the Department of Fish and Wildlife also will be among the parade attendees and participants. And I'm going to ask if we're able to hear Bill Bryant as announcer. We hear him vaguely, and I'm just curious, control room, if viewers are able to hear him. Okay. All right. So we'll continue to narrate the parade as best as we're watching it, as you're watching it. And so we'll continue to bring attention to those who are waving at the camera, saying hi, Mom and Dad, back home, and just showing their Kentucky pride today. Look at that.
Yeah. Speaking of the new electric vehicles, speaking of change and advances,
Yes.
these electric vehicles are going to be displayed here in the parade, and of course a big part of Kentucky's economy with the massive battery park happening there, and some of the vehicles they're going to be showing off here. I'm not sure which ones are coming up exactly, but there's the Ford Lightning, the new battery electric full-size truck. This was just unveiled a couple of years ago, but it is going to be a big boon for Ford, of course, and the Kentucky truck plant in Louisville. They are also building the Ford Super Duty F-250, and so those are a couple of the trucks that they're going to be showing off here today.
Yeah, fun stuff. You've got the horsepower, and then you've got the horsepower.
Right? Isn't that the truth?
The four-legged variety, well, and the four-wheel variety.
A horse of all colors.
The horse of all
we
colors.
have come a long way since the first automobiles in the parade, which caused nearly a panic.
Oh, my goodness.
Let's talk about it.
Yes.
Because many people hadn't seen one. And when they saw the horseless carriage come down and spitting out its smoke and everything like that and making the noise and the horses getting scared, it was like, what in the world has happened?
Oh, wow.
You know, and of course, you didn't have television back then.
No.
So if you could have that documented now.
Sure.
The panic
That
of
is wild.
seeing people see that for the first time.
And one old lady in one of the crowds actually thought it was the devil coming down the street.
Mercy.
It was that new to a lot of people.
Wow.
Wow.
Well, it seems like, Kelsey, we're picking up on a theme here, that the parades are the place for new experiences.
I guess
Exactly. Exactly.
That's right. Experience
Both
a
the
little
good
bit of
and
everything.
the bad variety.
That's right.
This is going to be good. We're going to keep with a good positive theme, and we're all very used to seeing all kinds of horsepower demonstrated. But it is fun to see starting off with the horse-drawn carriages, and then to see where we are now as a state and
look at those
moving the state forward.
workers there represented.
Wow.
I think these may be some of the workers with some of those plants.
I mean, talk about bringing out the heavy machinery.
Yeah.
Right? Wow.
Yeah, they're really showing off the big guns here.
Aren't they really? You know, you kind of sometimes when you watch parades, except for maybe some of the big ones on national television, you miss the days of the old floats.
Yes, you
But
do.
this is the modern day float.
It is.
Department of Highways. And so this is an homage to all of the great people who work in our transportation cabinet and department to keep Kentucky literally moving. A lot of transportation needs the state has and are working on, and these are the folks who help make it happen. And you know, we are seeing, I don't know if you can go down any major interstate or highway where you're not seeing, Kelsey, a lot of construction, widening of roads and et cetera to make room for growth, and those are good signs. Department of Parks on a pontoon float.
Pontoon float.
That
There's an
is
old-fashioned
fantastic.
float
we
right
go.
there.
Okay, we got what we were asking for.
That's a float that floats.
That's a float that floats. It sure is. How fun is that? And, you know, dressed in kind of period regalia there. Really fun. I love the themes happening here. You know, you do wonder how they settle on something. You know, do they do it by vote? And
They brainstorm a great deal.
a great deal.
They do.
Yeah, that's fun.
And we should note that Kentucky's park system
Department of Fish and Wildlife
was always considered one of the greatest park systems in the nation, and one of the most progressive through the years also.
Yes, and look at the number of state parks we have.
Yes.
And they are working very closely to, you know, renovate some of those as well, and to make those tourism destinations in Kentucky. And I will say that they're great for retreats, all kinds of retreats, and just to enjoy nature, because we do have some of the prettiest places around.
You know, it used to be said that God was an Englishman. Some people think God was a Kentuckian first.
We won't argue with that.
Yeah.
We won't argue with that. Division of Forestry you just saw over there. You see him right there. That's fun.
Is that Smokey the Bear
That's
there?
Smokey the Bear. Only you can prevent forest fires.
That's right. That's right. Which is another disaster that we've been dealing with here.
Goodness,
you know,
you're right.
Those wildfires across eastern Kentucky.
That's right.
These are the responders who were fighting those fires, and of course the Division of Forestry, Kentucky National Guard involved there, local firefighters, volunteer firefighters, and so paying tribute to them for all of their hard work there in eastern Kentucky just here recently.
Yeah. Yeah, we've been having conversations with Mother Nature quite a bit here lately, but our first responders stand ready to answer the call. No candy throwing at this kind of
No
parade.
candy throwing.
Yet.
Yet.
Right?
Yeah, right? Yeah. I think.
You never know.
Yeah, you never know. I don't know if I've ever seen them throw candy. They don't
I don't
really
think I
do
have
that.
either.
Yeah.
That's probably just as well.
Probably, yes, probably.
This is Hazard and Perry County, I think, represented. Of course,
Yes,
one of
that
those
is correct.
communities affected by
That's right.
flooding
That's
in
right.
July of 2022. Another showing off their rebuilding cost. You can see right there their volunteer hours. A lot of them holding up their signs to show their resilience after that historic flooding there. And so another story there of resilience and moving forward.
And it's interesting that these participants drive great distances.
Yes,
You know,
they do.
Hazard's a pretty good
It's
piece.
a long haul
Yes,
for
yes.
sure.
And the western part of the state,
That's
too.
right.
When we're all in the western part of the state, we hear, well, the bluegrass and Western Kentucky Parkway go both ways.
That's right.
Right? And we're often reminded that when we visit. And so it's good to have a day where it's not just about Frankfort, right? This is about the whole state and celebrating the whole state. It is a gubernatorial inauguration, but to see people who have been through extraordinary just issues and challenges to be here today just really makes your heart warm. That's a decker, isn't it? I mean, that's a
That is.
that's quite the ride. The rebuild cost $143 million. I mean, that's
that puts it in
amazing.
perspective.
It really does.
Wow.
And our hearts and thoughts are still to those. We know that some people are still trying to recover and to find their
thousands
home,
of
right?
people displaced there. 14 counties affected by that flooding, and many of them represented here today. These are also some of the home builders from those disaster areas you can see here.
The Housing Alliance.
Appalachia is rising. These are the representatives of various home builders from those disaster areas. Habitat for Humanity, Homes and Hope, the Hope Initiative, even Mayfield, Graves County, you know.
That's right.
All ends of the state there, and how they've come together to help rebuild those areas affected by disaster.
And we'll just put a plug in for our nightly weeknight program, Kentucky Edition, that's been able to share the stories of resiliency over these past, whether it's 2 years or a year and a half, of Kentuckians who really just banded together to help their neighbors, and our grassroots efforts really to help with food efforts and housing and all kinds of issues. And so it's good that today we celebrate them.
Yes, it
in
is.
many ways, I mean, we are celebrating a new or a continuation of administration or a second term, but it is also saying, you know, it's lifting up those who've seen some pretty tough times.
It's sometimes we should think about the many people who volunteered so many hours
Yes.
to help people in need, and Kentucky is very, very well known for that.
Right. We saw a sign that says, "Thank you to Governor Beshear and Team Kentucky for taking us to higher ground," certainly figurative and quite literally. Right, and so much work still to be done to help those 116 homes lost. And now you're hearing the national anthem. Floyd County Band, and once again, as Kelsey was talking earlier, you know, these are the counties that represent resiliency from flooding in eastern Kentucky, and to see them here today is extraordinary. We're allowing some pregnant pauses so that you can enjoy some of the music from the bands. They are a little bit, by the time they get to us, sometimes they have moved on. And so we're trying to keep pace as best as we can with what we think you might be seeing when we see it. We know that so many of you are watching because you have a kiddo who's not so much of a little kiddo anymore, who is marching in the band or maybe riding in one of the floats or just showing their Kentucky spirit today. And so we want to give you the opportunity to see them and to hear them if possible.
This is the Pike County Band.
So we may have told you that the parade is kind of, if not divided, but there are kind of two parts. There's a phase one and there's a phase two. And the phase one was the homage to the healthcare workers and educators and the economic development folks who are helping to bring more industry to Kentucky. And of course, you're seeing a lot of bands mixed in, but then we will see others, the dignitaries, elected officials, who you'll be seeing in a little bit as well. So it's interesting to blend those two, but to give the Kentuckians time to just be celebrated in their own space.
And it's amazing with Kentucky, with so many counties, you know, that so many of them do make the trip here for this.
Right.
And as you said a while ago, some great distances too, and at great sacrifice they do this. So it just gives more to the spirit of the day, I think.
Right. And they had to rehearse, right?
Yes.
You know, you have to, even though you know Jingle Bells, you got to know how to play it.
I've heard several versions of it in my life.
That's right, yes. Breathitt County, also one of those storm-ravaged counties in eastern Kentucky.
I wonder how many of the counties are represented here today.
It'll be interesting to know.
Yes,
and
it would.
when it's all said and done, I think that will be what is written about how recognizing, you know, what Kentucky has endured as a state. And while we're celebrating the inauguration of the leader of the state CEO, I believe, and we heard it last night during the private swearing-in, that the governor gives a lot of credit to average, everyday Kentuckians who get up each and every day, sometimes facing tremendous challenges, and just get her done, right? And I think today is a day you can celebrate that spirit, and that's what you're seeing. Habitat for Humanity, we know the good work they do in helping to rebuild destroyed homes and to give, quite frankly, those who maybe have not had a chance at home ownership to help them along as well. Home ownership is often a path for greater economic prosperity, and to see them in the parade today. And you got to love the word hope, right?
Yes.
Maybe that's the subtext.
It is a theme.
It is a theme, and they are a group that builds homes and works with those who's been in distress. And I think hope says it all. It's funny, where we are on the balcony of the state reception room, which is on the second floor, you get a blend of lots of different sounds as they are passing the reviewing station and exiting. And so we're hearing lots of different bands. It sounds good. Yeah. And I hope they sounded as good. Yeah. Are you able to hear them as well, I should say, when they were right in front of you? A lot of talent in Kentucky. You're going to see some of that. You're seeing that on display now. And then later on today, you'll see a mega star.
That's right.
Who will be joining the stage for the public swearing in at 2 p.m. Tyler Childers.
This is the Gen EV Racing, the UK Center for Applied Energy Research, about 20-30 middle school students from Fayette County, 3 EV vehicles. Get this, they designed and built these.
Wow.
Talk about these
Fun.
kids these days.
Talk
you
about
know,
these
they
kids
don't
next
just play
generation.
with cars, they make cars.
They make cars, right? Yes.
It is incredible. So that's really cool to show off what those students have been up to, making EV vehicles.
That's
unbelievable.
Something. That is something. They can probably drive them better than I can. And not even able to. This is the Kentucky State University Band. Kentucky State University is Kentucky's only public, historically black college and university. The other is Simmons, but that is a private institution. They are performers in many ways. To hear their ensemble choir, in addition to their marching band, they certainly are great halftime performers.
Here's our big show I was looking for.
Yes, yes. And this is the home band, right? I mean, we're situated just a mile or two, maybe from where Kentucky State University is located. So we are, they're entertaining us on their soil today. And we're going to just listen in to them for just a couple of seconds. So as we mentioned to you earlier, there were kind of two phases of the parade, and the Kentucky State University Marching Band, they are the entrance to the second phase of today's parade. And you'll be seeing now from some Franklin County and Frankfort elected officials, and maybe a couple of former governors or two. And I'm looking forward to seeing Big Red, WKU's, Western Kentucky University's mascot.
Oh, yeah.
Well, we don't want to upstage Kentucky State University for the time being, so we'll still let you enjoy them, giving you a little spoiler alert on what's to come. And I believe these are the Franklin County officials. Mm-hmm. Mayor Lane Wilkerson, Judge Executive Michael Mueller, and State Senator Jay Williams. And there we are, Governor Paul Patton and his wife Judy. that kind of does your heart good.
Yes.
Governor Paul Patton, we visited Pikeville over the summer. He is 86 years old. Written his first book that is out and is available. Have you read this, picked it up yet?
Not yet, but I've read reviews of it so far.
And so I've got it coming in from Amazon for the holidays, and for him to talk about his 2 terms as governor, and to acknowledge the good and the not so good in his administration. And Judy, who has always been a very warm first lady.
Yes, very much.
And I think it's fitting to have the classic car that they're in, knowing them a little bit. Certainly it's good to see them out and about on this brisk day.
Governor Patton was always known as the governor with the common touch. He would talk to anyone and give them his full attention, so he's been remembered very fondly for that.
And that is true. If you've ever been in his presence, he is so warm and just down to earth as anyone can be. Western Kentucky University.
There's your Hilltoppers.
Those are our Hilltoppers. Go Tops.
That's my alma mater.
That's right. Yes, yes.
That's
Same.
Got two Western grads
two
here.
Hilltoppers here. So go Tops. Very proud. Bowling Green, Kentucky. And very proud of them and that institution, all of the institutions in Kentucky.
Oh,
I
yes.
think I have a sweatshirt from each one of them. Because they all have their unique programs that help serve this state, help us with our workforce issues, and help enlighten a new generation of leaders and to bring them into their own leadership. And we know that so much is changing. And it's good to see the future marching around, celebrating the present.
That's the
and
truth.
hopefully we can keep all of these young people here in Kentucky and maybe even see some of them be celebrated on a day like today. Western really showed up for this. This is a good 2.5, 3 hour drive.
Sea of red
That
right
is
there.
a sea of red. And they're playing the WKU fight song, and there's the towel wave that you're seeing. The red towel. Kind of the emblem of the university. Spirit makes the master.
Oh, yes.
Is the motto at Western Kentucky University. President is Dr. Timothy Caboni. And these are the Kentucky Supreme Court justices. Now, we're not sure we can see everyone because it's pretty dark, but we should have the justice, Chief Justice, Lawrence Van Meter. There should be Michelle Keller and Justice Nickel and Deborah Lambert. It's nice to have this kind of truck-pulled trolley action,
I
isn't
know,
it?
that is a cool-looking trolley there.
Kind of fun.
So as you mentioned, this part of the parade, phase 2, we'll see a lot more of the dignitaries involved in this phase of the parade. But it is wonderful to see that, as well as all the folks that were in that first phase representing Kentucky, these representing sort of our representatives, but how they are all coming together to celebrate today.
That's right. That's right. And it's good to see that, and to different branches of government.
This is Ethan Almighty. I don't know if you remember this dog.
Remember this.
He was. He has become quite the sensation. Ethan Almighty. He was found abused and neglected in a parking lot back in 2021 in January, I believe, and went to the Kentucky Humane Society, and Jeff Calloway, the facilities director at the Humane Society, adopted him. Look at him now.
Look at him now. He looks very healthy and happy.
He is very healthy, and I tell you what, he's got he's quite the celebrity. He was just named the American Humane Hero Dog last year, a national award. He's got a spokesperson, if you will, job with
a publicist,
Beshear. He's the chief tasting officer.
Oh my goodness, that's a bad gig, isn't it, for him?
He's in the Animal Hall of Fame with the Kentucky Veterinary Medical Association. So he's really made quite the name for himself,
wow.
Ethan Almighty. And here he is in the inauguration parade.
Well, that goes to show he's made it,
yes.
right, when he's making this kind of appearance. And now you're seeing some of the constitutional officers. That is Secretary of State Michael Adams. He is an incumbent, so he's not an elect. He has served 4 years already. He's now entering his second term. We should mention that the constitutional officers will be sworn in on January 1st. So they are not sworn in during this time period, but when the calendar flips over to the new year, he will be then. So we refer to them, if they haven't been previous office holders, as their office elect. But he is Secretary Adams, of course, is just Secretary Adams. This is the new incoming Attorney General, Russell Coleman, and his wife. Russell Coleman is former FBI. He was the U.S. Attorney for the Western District of the state, appointed by President Donald Trump, and has a really extensive background. He's an attorney, and he has been in conversations and work on criminal justice issues and reforms, and he is a big proponent of law enforcement and a good friend of former Republican gubernatorial nominee Daniel Cameron. And here we're seeing Russell Coleman and his wife enjoying a lap around Capitol Avenue. This is the state treasurer-elect. This is Mark Metcalf. Once again, he'll be sworn in at the beginning of the year. He is the treasurer, state treasurer-elect. He is the Garrett County prosecutor. He's held that position off and on, Ron Bryant, for I think about 20 or 30 years, different spurts, right?
Yes.
Comes with a pretty extensive prosecutorial background, but he will be serving as the state treasurer. And Allison Ball, who for 2 previous vote cycles was the top vote getter. Michael Adams bested her in November, but she was the former state treasurer. She's term limited, and so now she ran for state auditor and was successful and is the state auditor elect. That is Allison Ball. Allison's got 2 little ones at home. Marigold, and I believe it's Eli, and Asa Swan is her husband. He's probably taking care of him. Jonathan Schell, a former state representative who was one of the, I think, the youngest leader in the Kentucky House. He is now the Ag Commissioner-elect, and he will assume office at the beginning of the year, he and his lovely wife. His wife won't assume office, but she is with him in the vehicle.
Thank you all for taking care of us. Thank you. It's an honor to have you guys.
Jonathan Schell says he will, wants to expand more markets for agricultural goods in Kentucky, and he has a big interest in foster and adoptive kids, so we'll see how he uses this platform to help in that way with food insecurity. And so it's a bright new future for lots, because this is the first time in a cycle that we've had some new constitutional officers. We had the same ones from before, and so now we've got some fresh faces who will be in the Capitol. He's also from Garrett County. Okay, House and Senate Democratic caucus members are behind Ag Commissioner-elect Jonathan Schell. Go Thoroughbreds, which I guess is that the K-State, is that the Kentucky State University trolley or something? They're Thoroughbreds. I'm not sure if that's for them or not, but those are the leaders. Those are the colors, so it must be. Those are the Democratic leaders of the Kentucky House and Kentucky Senate. And they're exiting their trolley.
March Madness marching band.
this is an interesting group. They're very colorful. Even their outfits, I think, represent that superlative.
They look like a lot of fun.
They're a lot of fun. Many of them are from Lexington, and they often appear in parades. I don't remember them appearing in an inaugural parade before. I know Jonathan Miller, who is a former state treasurer, his sister is very involved, I think, in this group. But you can see they've got some style, right?
Yeah, they do.
Those candy canes are good props. So it's good to see them in the parade, adding some more festive nature to the parade and a little dance move to go along with it.
Representing the Lexington Frankfort County Government, the Lexington March National Sustained
We're going to see some local government floats coming up, we believe, here in a moment.
That's right. I don't know if we missed the Louisville Metro float.
I wonder if we did.
But they may be still to come. This is Todd County, JROTC there, and their cheerleaders along with them.
Todd County is a pretty good distance from here as
Yes,
well.
it is.
And they've all brought the crowd.
They've brought
tell you,
a
they
good
have a lot
contingent of folks with them.
a lot of people.
Good to see that.
It is so fun to see them bring in the students and the schools and get them involved in this, and because it's something about being here where you do feel the history of
That's
it,
right.
and you understand the significance of it, and
They
it's
become
so
part of history at this point.
exactly
right.
and
That's
to become part of history at that age, can make a real lasting impression
That's so true.
on students and help them be involved in government and interested in government, and that's
even
just
if they're
wonderful.
not maybe voting age, to show them like what's possible, and there's something just about being on these grounds, right, that is so inspiring. The Red Oak Winter Guard from Nicholasville. So we're hearing lots of Christmas sounds. We heard the one of my favorite cartoons for Christmas, Charlie Brown Christmas, and we heard the Peanut song just a moment ago. But now we're getting a little joy to the world. It's fun to hear folks celebrating the season. And this very well could be some of the performers that we're hearing later who are rehearsing.
I think that may be what it is.
So where we're perched, we're right here where all the action is, so really just above it, just a floor above it. The governor will be directly below where we are. So there's a lot of rehearsals happening for the 2 o'clock swearing in. So there's some blending of voices and songs and sounds and melodies right now. And you're going to be in for a good treat if you get to hear a little later what we're hearing right now.
Knox County, JROTC there, represented.
So I believe our Laura Rogers has been able to catch up with Governor Paul Patton.
And we are joined by the former governor of Kentucky, Paul Patton. A lot of people walking by, shaking your hand, wishing you a happy Inauguration Day.
Great to be here on a day like this.
It has to be bringing back so many fond memories for you. What are you thinking today?
Well, I just think the prospects in Kentucky are good, and that's what we're all looking for. I think Andy Beshear has done a great job, and people realize that. And today's a celebration of it. But 4 years of hard work ahead. I know that.
Well, let's talk about that. So another term for the Beshear-Coleman administration. What does that mean for the Democratic Party in Kentucky as a whole?
Well, I think it's a very positive sign that the people of Kentucky are willing to look at people for their qualifications. Certainly that's what they did with Andy. And he's done a good job, and he deserves it. You need 8 years to do this job. It takes you 4 years to get it started, and then 4 years to get it implemented. And I just say we got an election for 8 years with a 4-year interim judgment is the way I look at it.
Well, and you served 8 years. You were a 2-term governor.
Yes.
So what advice do you have for Governor Beshear as he goes into his second term?
Well, he knows all he needs to know. You know, I've been out of office 20 years. Things have changed a lot in 20 years, and he understands that. I've got full confidence in him.
Well, it's so good to see you, Governor Patton.
Good to be here.
I wish you a happy Inauguration Day, just like the others have been.
Just like that sunshine up there. It's just a bright day in Kentucky.
It is a beautiful day in Kentucky and right here in the state capitol. Good to see you.
Good to see you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura Rogers, with former Kentucky Governor Paul Patton, who served 2 terms. And I loved what he said there, and I've heard him say that before. It takes you 4 years kind of to get started, and then the next 4 years to implement it. But very few get the luxury of having 2 terms.
That's very true.
And I think some would say that Governor Beshear got quite a bit done. He and the legislature did quite a bit in these last 4 years.
And for Governor Patton to say that, because he was the first since 1800, is that right?
Since James Garrett, nearly 200 years before.
Because that amendment was passed during his time in office.
That's right. Yeah.
We didn't like governors to succeed themselves for many years.
Right, right. That amendment, 1992, Governor Brereton Jones didn't get to enjoy that, but he stepped back so that someone else could, right?
Very true.
And we lost Governor Brereton Jones this year, but certainly a legacy that lives on and inspires future leaders in Kentucky. A good parade so far, more to come. We believe we're also hearing them tune up down there. This is some great sounds coming from below us. This is the Cumberland County Retired Teachers. And we have, retired teachers often feel like they don't get heard as often, but we're seeing them today, and they are enjoying their place in the parade. Well, it wouldn't be a parade without Abe Lincoln. Pretty fun. That's the log cabin where we've got a pretty good view of that. Appropriate float. This is the first time, Ron, I think I've seen this.
Yes, that is, I think, first.
Yeah. So is there any truth to, there is a statue of Abe Lincoln in the center of the rotunda where all of these major ceremonies are held. Is there any truth to if you rub his toe, you will have good luck?
If you look at his boots, you'll see how many people's tried that.
Well, hey, and I was among them.
We don't want to test it the opposite.
That's right.
Just,
it is worn there where people have tried their luck rubbing the toe, the bronze toe of Abraham Lincoln.
That's one of the best statues of Lincoln, right?
It is quite striking and takes center stage in that rotunda. And last night you saw that when you watched coverage of KT.
And I always remember what Lincoln said when he was running for the presidency in 1860 about Kentucky. I, too, am a Kentuckian.
I, too, am a Kentuckian.
He was born here.
That's exactly right. There is a great documentary in the vault of KET just titled that, I, Too, Am a Kentuckian. And maybe folks can look that back up again.
That was a very good one, by the way.
It was a very good one. It seems like yesterday, but it's been quite a few years, probably 20 or so. Oh, this is beautiful and festive.
I think this is the Boyle County Arts Academy.
Uh-huh.
Which would make sense. It's very artistic.
Yeah, absolutely. I like a little winter wonderland. We are nearing the end of the parade. It is 12:22 Eastern Time, 11:22 Central Time. If you're just joining us, you are watching the inaugural parade. I think that's Hart County that we just saw there. We saw Boyle County Arts Academy just a moment ago, Lewis County, JROTC.
I think that's McLean County. A lot of these groups, too, the future leaders of Caldwell County, the future business leaders, the future farmers, 4-H. And so, again, just wonderful to see these kids interested in leadership in their own schools, and hopefully that translates into their adult lives as well.
You may be looking at some of future governors in those groups.
That's
Could
right.
very well be. And you're right, Kelsey, you said it just so well earlier about seeing these young people participate today. And it's brisk. It's not it's comfortable, but it is brisk, and many of them have driven great distances to be here, and for them to come to Kentucky's cradle of democracy and to be here to witness history and to be a part of history. We hope that does inspire future leaders and just more civic engagement, right? To learn more about what your government is doing and to be a part of, and to have felt like you've been a part of it.
That's right.
That's what
the
today is
first
about.
step.
That's right. To feel like my voice matters, and me being here today for these young people, hopefully that communicates that they matter. They are our future. There was a former state representative who used to say the young people are 25% of our population, but 100% of our future.
Exactly.
And if she's watching, she
truth.
knows exactly who I'm talking about, who was famous for quoting that. And that is so very true. So to see us kind of round out this parade today with these young parade attendees and to be a part of the parade, it's encouraging.
It is.
When
And
we think youth are disengaged and just on their devices,
That's right.
they're actually out here in the briskness.
They are out here. And among the dignitaries,
And
too.
among
We
the
talked about
dignitaries.
how, this is all about the pomp and circumstance and all of the elected leaders and that. But the kids are right there with them. And,
Yeah.
and so they matter just as much.
That's right.
It's
And
so important that young people always have a feeling for history and how the government works. That is the foundation stones for our future right there.
Well, and it's all a part of democracy,
Yes.
right?
Yes,
And
it is.
in addition to having an open and free press, having
Yes.
people engaged and being informed citizens and feeling like they're a part of their government, certainly. And we're glad that we're able to bring this part of today's festivities with you. We may be nearing the end or at the end of the parade, and so we certainly appreciate you being here with us as we see them kind of round the bend here. We're coming up on some of the last few participants in the parade, and perhaps we have seen all of the participants in the parade at this juncture. Kudos to all of our camera crew who are out working and getting us these fabulous perspectives,
Wow,
many
yeah.
that we have
Yes.
not had ever before. And so under the direction of Carl Babcock, who is also our manager of Frankfort operations, thank you for all of you all for doing a fabulous job for Kentucky today.
It is an incredible operation.
Oh, it is.
Just seeing the behind the scenes and what goes into bringing you these fantastic pictures.
Look
it
at
really
that
is
shot.
an undertaking. That's beautiful.
It's beautiful. Even with the scaffolding on the dome,
Yes.
as we mentioned before.
Just shows progress,
It
right?
shows progress. That's right. And Ron, the Capitol is due for a little touch-up.
Yes, it is.
I mean, this building is 110 years
Yes.
old.
Yes.
And there have been, touch-ups here, there, and yon. I remember the chambers have gotten
Yes.
new desks and
Exactly.
new carpet. But we're talking about a full-scale, multi-million-dollar renovation.
And it's time. It is, because this building, even though massively built, it's still to the weather and
Sure.
wear and usage. It has to be preserved,
It has
and
to
for
be
many, many generations to come.
Yes, it is a beautiful Capitol, and we're showing you so many sides of the outside. But we do hope that you and your kiddos and taking the field trips will come to the state Capitol to just see the inside.
Oh,
The
yes.
grounds are
Yes.
beautiful, but the inside will certainly just have your eyes constantly moving It's beautiful, and as Kelsey mentioned earlier, it's where all three branches of government can be found, and that makes Kentucky unique. You may be hearing some warm-up behind us. My Old Kentucky Home is being performed.
I can't help it. I get chills every time I hear it.
Every time, every time. The gentleman last night who performed the state anthem in the Rotunda, oh my goodness, extraordinary. And
it's one of the most beautiful state songs there is.
Yes, absolutely. And still more young people still, which we love seeing these bands. They just keep coming.
And now let's make welcome the Frankfort All-Star Marching Band, carrying out the tradition of all Inauguration.
Western Hills High School, that's situated here in Frankfort, correct? So we always kind of end the parade, the inaugural parade, with the home teams,
yes,
right?
And that's appropriate.
That's appropriate, right? So it's good that we appreciate them giving us such a warm welcome.
Yes.
And opening their city to us today.
Another thing about the Capitol here is that it is situated really in neighborhood settings,
Yes.
and that it is, the grounds are open for people to come. You'll see people running and walking, and it really is open to the public. And
So
that's
many state capitals
rare,
are,
right?
are situated in a city,
Right.
and you really can't see where the Capitol starts and the city ends. This sits very majestically on this hill, and I think they had a very good idea when they decided to do that. It really made a difference.
Yeah, it is.
It's extraordinary.
Unique.
All up and down Capitol Avenue. I mean, whether the dome has scaffolding or not, it's decorated in its own way right now. It is a sight to behold. And in the mansion next door,
Yes.
literally the governor has no commute. He can count the steps to his first floor office.
There are some enthusiastic cheers there. I
Yes.
don't care if it's the end of the parade or not, but
Yeah.
they're still.
They're still. That might have been the
cheering
Frankfort
loudly.
All-Star Marching Band. We want to confirm that. We don't want to misidentify anyone. But they're, as the kid would say, rolling really deep here.
Sure
This
are.
might just be the hometown band as well. There's something about the energy that a marching band gives,
It's
right?
so true.
Whether
Oh,
it's
my.
halftime or it's a parade, the drum line, it's something about it that just lifts your spirits a little bit.
We've come a long way from Governor Shelby's musical accompaniment, which was some drums and some fifes, and that was all there was.
We have come a long way indeed, because it is far more than that. And to see all of these great bands be here today, there's First Lady Brittany
Yeah,
Beshear,
she's
a little
feeling it.
inspired. She's feeling the drum line, isn't
Yeah.
she? That's fun. We do have youthful administration
Yes, we do.
with Governor Andy Beshear, who was mid-40s.
41?
Yeah. And the Lieutenant Governor also early 40s, and to have the young kids, I mean, it's a youthfulness, and even in the legislature, that's
Yes.
changing, where many of those who serve.
Oh, just very few years ago, it was very much the preserve of the senior citizens, to be honest with you.
But isn't it encouraging
It is. It
to
is.
see folks who are making really a sacrificial.
Oh, we have, and it is a sacrifice
Oh,
now. It
goodness
really
mercy.
is.
It is.
And that's why so many people don't go into public service,
Right.
and that's something that needs to be changed.
And to know that people are making the time to be here. And, we want to give some expression of gratitude for folks you don't see, those
Yes.
folks who help make these grounds so elaborate.
Oh, my goodness,
When you're
yes.
here in the Capitol, sometimes I've been here really late at night, and to see the custodial staff, they buff the floors,
Yes.
even in the annex.
Yes.
Many, many times a week. And it is just pristine. From this building, there's an annex building that houses many of the offices, and they just take immaculate care of these grounds and of the dwellings. And it's just good shout out to them
It
for
is.
taking good care of those of us who are here sometimes, and even today.
The people behind the scenes that don't get the glory many times need it.
That's
They
right,
really do.
and appreciate it when you just give them a little shout out. Well, if you're just joining us, you've missed a great parade. I'm Renee Shaw, along with KET host Kelsey Starks and Kentucky historian and author Ron Bryant, who's often here with us on gubernatorial inauguration day. We've had a great parade full of great bands, great music, great floats that hearken to our ingenuity, to even elevate those who've helped bring us through challenging times and difficulties, our healthcare workers and educators, and even an homage to the new industries that are emerging here in Kentucky that's responsible for some of our economic development boom, looking at those battery plants and seeing the union workers. It really has been a good parade celebrating all of those and elected officials as well to help make Kentucky drive us forward. And that is part of the theme today, Forward Together. That's this theme of Governor Andy Beshear and Jacqueline Coleman, and you'll be seeing that around in signage and also mentions throughout the day. And there's a lot more to come. We know we're just a little bit past 12:33, and we've got some more celebrations yet to come. There'll be a prelude, a musical prelude that you'll hear some great music. And then at 2 o'clock is the public swearing in, and there might be someone who might just upstage the governor just a little bit, Kelsey.
That may be. Yeah, we are very much looking forward to some of the people who are going to be here, including Tyler Childers, who is going to be performing. And so I know a lot of people looking forward to that as well. And I tell you what, some of the warm-ups we were hearing, I don't know who those people were, but they were phenomenal too. So I think there's a lot still to come. Of course, this is wrapping up here. We'll have the prelude at 1:30, and then, as Renee mentioned, the public swearing-in ceremony at 2 o'clock, and then the inaugural Grand March at 6 o'clock this evening.
And you can watch it all from your living room where it's nice, toasty, and warm, maybe with some hot cocoa. We're going to get some hot cocoa and some coffee. We're going to let you enjoy an interview that I did just a couple of weeks ago with Lieutenant Governor Jacqueline Coleman that aired this past Sunday on Connection. So we asked her some questions about her future political ambitions, and you can hear the answer in this interview. We know today's guest as the 58th Lieutenant Governor of Kentucky. Jacqueline Coleman's resume also includes being an educator, basketball coach, writer, and founder of a nonprofit. Lieutenant Governor Coleman joins me today to talk about the priorities of the second Beshear Coleman administration, what we can expect to see her take on in the next 4 years, and what could come for her 4 years from now. I know she's been asked this a lot. Welcome, Lieutenant Governor. It's good to have you.
Thank you so much for having me.
The times we've been in the studio 4 years ago, you were expecting.
Yes.
And now you have this wonderful little girl who is getting ready for all the inauguration festivities as we talk and record this program. That's really front and center for the administration right now.